Good evening. I'm opening the meeting of the Bristol Township Planning Commission. I would like to welcome all those in attendance and our viewing audience. I'm going to ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'm going to ask you kindly to remain standing, to keep in mind our troops that are in harm's way, our prisoners of war, our killed in action, our missing in action, all those children who have been separated from their parents, those who are suffering from that terrible war in Ukraine, and any personal intentions you may have. Thank you. Okay, Commissioners, well, first of all, we have a couple items on our agenda. First, we'll have consideration of the July 11th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Commissioners, you have copies of those minutes. You've had an opportunity to review them. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Commissioners. Next item on our agenda is consideration to recommend to council designate the following residential properties as blighted. Bob, good evening.
All right, guys, we're going to make this quick.
Is your microphone on? Thank you.
We're going to make this quick. We only have 3 properties on the list tonight. We'll start. The first one is 4901 Beaver Dam Road. This property was stickered with our initial code enforcement letter on February 1st of this year. The property has been vacant for a minimum of 2 years after it caught on fire. Nothing has been done since. In correspondence with our fire marshal, he believes that since that property caught on fire and nothing has been done since, that they kind of vacated the home. They have no intentions of coming back to this home by any means. We've had no contact with the owner. We also have unpaid taxes for 21 and 22, and we do have delinquent liens on the property currently, not through just Bristol Township, but in Bristol Borough, and they are accruing as well. Next slide, we'll have pictures of how the home sits today. Next property. Next property we have is 823 Main Ave in Croydon. We stickered this property in January of this year. This property also has delinquent unpaid taxes for 21 and 22. This property has a heavy amount of liens on the property. We've had to abate this property, and we also had to board up this property as well. This has had code enforcement issues dating back for a minimum of the last 5 years. We deal with this on a daily basis, numerous phone calls from residents, neighbors, and a lot of police complaints as well for this property. No contact with the owner by any means, and we see no sign of anyone in or out of this property. Next page will be how it depicts today. Next slide. Last home, 417 Westmont Ave. So this property has been vacant for several years now. It was on previous blight director's list. We have had no contact with this individual. We started getting complaints within the last year of squatters in and out of the home. The property does have plywood in front of the windows now. We honestly can't even see in through the windows. The back porch is caved in, taken off, sitting in the middle of the yard. The owner does have someone cut the yard, or it's a neighbor, but being that we have no contact, we don't know the status at this time frame. There are no liens. There are no delinquent taxes, but there is one lien on the home at this time. That's how that property sits today as well. That'll conclude the recommendations for tonight.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, guys.
Commissioners, you've heard the presentation on these three particular properties. The request to be designated to be blighted. I would entertain a motion on each property.
Want to do all three at once, or?
Well, you got to name each one of them.
I'll make a motion to recommend to council to blight the following residential properties in Bristol Township. The first property at 4901 Beaver Dam Road, Bristol, PA, 19007. TMP number 5-065-003. Second property being 823 Main Ave, Croydon, PA, 19021. TMP number 5-008-252-002. And the third property being 417 Westmont Ave, Croydon, PA, 19021. TMP number 5-058-039.
I have a motion to recommend to blight these three properties. Do I have a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
It's been moved and second. Any comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. The next item on our agenda is a sketch. The next item on our agenda is a sketch plan presentation. The County of Bucks, 55 East Court Street, Doylestown, requesting sketch plan review for a new law enforcement and government services building located at 7321 New Falls Road, Levittown. Tax parcels number 5-31-002, 5-35-247, 5-35-248, and 5-35-249 in an MS Municipal Services Zone District of Bristol Township. Do we have, good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Margie McKevitt. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the township.
I'm sorry, is your light on?
The light is on.
Oh, could you,
Don't know why.
We'll try it again. Good evening. I'll try this again. Commissioners, my name is Margie McKevitt. I'm from the Bucks County, I almost said Planning Commission. I've worked there for about 20-plus years, so I appreciate all that you do for Bristol Township in that capacity.
thank you.
My new role is Chief Operating Officer for the County of Bucks. And with that, we are here to present to you a new Lower Bucks Government Services Center. And I'm here with our partners, our architect, our engineer, our general services folks, and our law department, as well as our Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Gail Humphrey. I will introduce you in order by which they are sitting. This is David. Let's see if I can switch this around. David McHenry and Drew, I'm going to mess this up. Commence? All right, we got it. They are our architects on this project. John, I am very much going to mess up his name, but I'm not going to. We'll do that again. And also Mike Conley. And George Hutt is our Director of General Services, Deputy Director of General Services. Dan Greaser is from our law department, our solicitor on this project. And Jeff Downey is our engineer. So I'm going to turn this over to Gail Humphrey. She has a couple comments for you folks before we get started, if that's okay.
That would be fine, and unfortunately, I didn't quite, I guess hearing aids might not be working as well as they're supposed to.
Okay.
So I didn't get the name of the gentleman from General Services.
So George Hutt is our Director of General Services, and Mike Conley is our Deputy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having us today.
Well,
Can you
good
hear me?
evening.
Can you hear me okay? So thank you, Margie, for letting me say a few words on behalf of the county. This project is something that we have been talking with our county commissioners, our majority county commissioners, about the need to bring more services and better services to the residents of Lower Bucks. So as you know, our county seat is in Doylestown. I'm a resident of Falls Township, and one of my duties is I oversee the Board of Elections. And the current Lower Bucks Government Service Center has been serving the lower end of the county very well for the past few decades. However, with the COVID, and now we saw with changes in the election law, that the building is just not, it's not adequate. It's not large enough for the amount of services we want to provide. And more importantly, our county, our population base is here in Lower Bucks. So it's a priority for these county commissioners to provide a building that allows all of our constituents to be able to access their county government in a more efficient and localized way. So that is the goal of this project. Our architects took great care in trying to make this building seem like a community building and seem like something that all the folks in Lower Bucks are going to be very proud of. And we hope you enjoy our show. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. Dave McHenry with 30 McHenry Architecture.
Good evening, Dave.
Good evening. Margie and Gail did a pretty good job of taking care of my first dozen slides or so. No. You can click. So Bucks County, there are, it's, as Margie mentioned, the county seat is in Doylestown, which is Central Bucks, and there are government services that exist in Quakertown and here in Levittown. And to Gail's point, the existing building and the ability to provide services out of it is inadequate at best. Next slide, please. Just by way of orientation, so the new Government Services Center will accommodate all of the services that are currently there, but we'll also be consolidating some others. Among them is the juvenile probation, which is currently on Oxford Valley Road up by the mall on Route 1. We also have Career Link, which is
So, excuse me, Dave,
Yes,
for a
sir.
second. By any chance, do you have a pointer?
You know what, I do, and I told my guys, don't forget a pointer.
Thank you very much. And that's for the purpose of our viewing audience?
It is, I
So they
did
can
it.
see what-
Makes
thank you.
perfect sense. Can I start over? No.
Sure.
So here up by Route 1 is juvenile probation, Career Link is out on Street Road, and then just here on Veterans Highway is domestic relations. Each of those agencies and departments will be relocating to this facility. Next slide, please. This is the campus currently, New Falls Road and Woodburn Road. You see the existing government services building is here, the only one that's not circled. Other buildings on the site, the evidence storage, detectives' evidence storage is in the back of the site. Up front on New Falls Road is the district court. There's also the Family Services Association, also behind the library. And then there's a building, next slide, please, forgive me. So all those buildings will remain. There are two buildings that are planned to be vacated. One is a small building in the middle of the site, which houses the detectives currently. And the adult probation, which is in the building that fronts New Falls Road, which used to be a bank, was converted to that office use. Next slide, please. And then the last one, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the Government Services Building. That is intended to be demolished at the completion of this project. Obviously, it'll be occupied until we can build the new building, and then we'll consolidate all the services under one roof. Next slide, please. And the site for that, for the new building is towards the rear of the site. It does, and you'll see in a moment, it partly does the job of screening views of the evidence storage building, but more importantly, it creates a consolidated campus for the site. Next slide, please. This is a view of the building in that location. You see the detectives, or the evidence storage in the back. This is showing, this would be the location where the existing building is. It's been removed, and it's our intent to create more of a campus environment where the Government Services Building, the District Court, and the library all share sort of a quad, as you might see on a university campus. The agencies that will be in here are listed on the left. I'll go through them quickly. Board of Elections, Consumer Protection, Veterans Affairs, Juvenile Probation, Domestic Relations, the Sheriff will have a presence, the Adult Probation, District Attorney and detectives will all be on the ground floor. The second floor will be housed by primarily the Health Department and Career Link, but we'll also have Prothonotary and Register of Wills. So it's a two-story building. It's about 40,000, just under 40,000 square feet in total area. And it fronts the green space. The parking area that you see here is the existing parking as it exists today and wraps around the Government Services Building. That will be the condition. We're building some additional parking behind the building. And in the initial phase, that parking in front will remain. The second phase, subsequent phase, next slide please, would be to remove the parking that's here, expand the parking behind the building, and really accomplish the quad, that sort of green space that organizes the entire campus as a civic space, as a civic location within the township. Next slide, please. This is a view looking from that green space towards the building. The building fronts the green space with a primary entrance in the center. It's a two-story space you'll see in a moment. Signifies entrance pretty clearly. It's a covered entrance, and there's also a loggia colonnade that is to the left of that, which will provide additional cover, not only for access to the building, but in sometimes when there's voting or there's election going on, you're able to be undercover and out of the conditions as the lines might get long during those events. Next slide, please. This is a view from the crosswalk, looking at this sort of the same facade of the building, and the entrance is here. Next slide, please. As you enter the building, it's a two-story lobby. The building is organized in a way that there's this main public space that is organized, and then there's a gallery on both levels, first floor and second floor, where each of the transaction windows for all the agencies will be located. So the building is intended to be intuitive and put all those services in a way that's easily accessible, easily identifiable to residents. And last, the view again from the green space. I think that is it, other than a shameless plug, forgive me. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that's generally.
Well, thank you for the thorough presentation.
Yes, sir.
And if anybody else would like to speak, by all means.
Thank you. Dan Greaser from the Law Department. I'm a Deputy County Solicitor.
And good evening, Dan.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you all. Nice to see you here in Bristol Township. Just a couple of points. You know, we don't believe we need any zoning relief for this project. I know your engineer is still reviewing it. We just submitted it a week or so ago, so we really appreciate being here tonight. But we don't believe we need any zoning relief. We're asking for one waiver, and that really has to do with asking for preliminary final. In one waiving the preliminary review, land development review, and accomplishing that in one visit. So pretty straightforward project, I think, and a meaningful project for the township and the county as a whole. So if you had any questions, we're happy to entertain them tonight.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Not to this point, thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. And is there anyone else who would like to speak? I love it. This is great. So, commissioners, and by the way, it's very impressive. You know, we're certainly looking forward to having something like this coming down to our end of the town. Commissioners, you've heard the presentations. By the way, Kurt, do you have anything? Samantha? Bob? Okay. I didn't want to snub you guys. I'm sorry. Okay. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. Commissioners, you've heard the presentation. I would entertain a motion.
There's no motion, it's just a presentation.
Oh,
tonight,
that's
John.
correct. That was a test. And you've done good. Okay, so, and that was force of habit, by the way. So anyway, the presentation was very, very well put together, and we do appreciate that. And again, we're looking forward to this coming to light. Having said that, and having nothing else on our agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Moved in second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for coming down. Appreciate it.